Welcome to our 5 on 5. Pleased to be joined today by naturalist rancher Bill Simpson II, author of Horse Fire Brigade. Good to see you, sir.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. So you live down adjacent to the Soda Mountain Wilderness.
That's correct.
In Northern California. So you were proposing the idea that wild horses should be managed differently because of their value as a forest fire management tool. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, how'd you come to that conclusion?
Well, I've just completed a 5-year study, 11,000 hours in the wilderness, 24/7, 365, 5 years. I came into this thing by looking at the existing research by Dr. William J. Ripple at Oregon State, he's forest ecology, saying that when you have an adequate herbivore in the landscape, you have a reduction in both the frequency and intensity of wildfire.
Okay, and what made you get involved in this? I mean, living in that area, did you see a lot of wild horses? And wonder
well,
about
exactly. We're living among wild horses, and we're in an area that doesn't have the complexity of commingled cattle and wild horses, which is a problem. We need to move the wild horses away from areas where we're trying to manage livestock into areas where they can be beneficial to taxpayers.
Okay, and yeah, just for anybody who doesn't know, how are the wild horses currently managed?
They're currently managed in herd management areas by the BLM, and unfortunately they're trying to work cattle and horses together. And unfortunately that doesn't work so good because you've got to get rid of the predators to have cattle survive, your cattle. The whole idea is, production. And so if the predators are eating all your calves and your sheep, that doesn't work, so they had to get rid of the predators, and so the horses have been removed of their natural evolved predators.
Okay, and so you're advocating for some change in how the government manages this. What do you want to see?
Well, I'd like them to move the horses into areas where they benefit the forest. They're symbiotic with the flora and fauna of our forests. They evolved in the forest, they're very beneficial. And then our study, it's a 5-year study called The Impact of Wild Horses on the Wilderness and Wildfire, which has been published, proves that.
And what kind of steps do we need to see to make the kind of change you're hoping for?
We've got to get legislators to propose a bill to the way we manage and modify the way we manage our wild horses. And again, there's no need to have this range war with cattle and livestock production. These horses can be removed and put into the wilderness areas where they are very beneficial.
Okay, and you told me before we began, you're already working with Congressman Greg Walden here on the Oregon side of the border. What are you hoping to see federally, the steps that would need to be taken?
Well, I'm also working with Jackson County Commissioner Colleen Roberts and the commission here. They've been kind of educating them on what my research has been. And we're hoping to have them introduce a bill that the legislature could look at that would allow us to actually, it's a cash positive move. You take them, it costs us almost $100 million a year to manage these horses the way they're doing it now. If we move them into the wilderness, they suddenly provide about $150 million a year in benefits because they remove fuel.
Okay.
The grass and brush.
Fascinating. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Much more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with Bill Simpson II. He's a naturalist and rancher, also the author of Horse Fire Brigade. We're talking about this study that you did about wild horses in the Soda Mountain Wilderness. What's your background and how'd you get into this?
Well, I went to Oregon State with the intention of being a physician and ended up with a degree in flight technology. So I've got a lot of science. Grew up in the Applegate, was a rancher and FFA and all that. So I'm not a partisan for the horses. I came in more, our family's loggers, logging and livestock, and then when we moved into the wilderness and saw wild horses, they piqued my curiosity. So I went into it. I wanted to know, really, were the myths true that I'd heard?
And so is it correct to summarize your study as to say that these wild horses can really cut down on fire risk in these extremely rural areas, and that they should be moved for that purpose?
Absolutely. We saw what they did during the Klamathon fire. The fire tried to spot over the fire line and to the area where the horses had been grazing because we don't have cattle there. There's too many predators. You can't do cattle. So they actually reduced the fuels, and the fire had a lot of trouble, and we held it at the Camp Creek fire line. And then Colorado College did a documentary about that called Fuel, Fire, and Wild Horses. Okay,
and I believe you told me during the break you have that documentary on your website?
That's right.
Okay, where can people find that?
People can find that at WHFB. It's the initials of Wild Horse Fire Brigade, WHFB.us.
Okay.
So WHFB.us.
Well, it's obviously a complicated study, and as you said, you've got the background for it. I appreciate you coming in and even spending 5 minutes on it. It's very informative.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Stay with us. We'll be right back.